Do you remember this?
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
No, we didn't.
Well, of...
The British press said that.
Right.
Did Meghan ever mention that they were racist?
They've emerged again. The Duke and Duchess of Montecito are back in the headlines via their unofficial mouthpiece, Omid Scobie. Lady Colin Campbell calls him scabies. I like to call him Scooby-Doo, if it hadn't been for those pesky Dutch. This will be Scobie's second major book centred around the royals. The first, Finding Freedom, which I like to call Finding Fantasy, was about Harry and Meghan's departure from the UK. Now, this was the book that Meghan claimed she had not sanctioned or briefed him on, only later having to admit in the court of law that she'd actually forgotten that she had, in fact, briefed him. Well, that's convenient. So basically, her first account was pretty much, well, what equates to a lie. Now, Omid's new book, Endgame, which I suspect is a premonition for what is to become of his career and, of course, his finances, because somehow, according to his book, there were not one but two royal racists, which are named in the Dutch translation, which was released in the Netherlands this week. He doesn't actually use the word racism, it's that popular term, unconscious bias. The racism row, of course, all centres around Meghan's comments on the Oprah interview, which the Sussexes did to mark the start of their worldwide privacy tour. According to the couple, there were concerns about how dark their unborn baby's skin would be and that the baby may not be given a title because of it. Well, up until now, the person who apparently made these comments had remained anonymous. The speculation as to who it might be meant that the royal family were initially branded as racists, and the Queen issued that famous statement saying that recollections may vary. Her last years, in fact, were clearly made very miserable. But Omid is now distancing himself from his Dutch translation of his own book, which names the so-called royal racists, and he's now insisting that he did not put their names into the manuscript and appears to be blaming it on the translator. Does that sound right to you? Have a listen to his defence.
The Dutch publisher told us there was a translation error, and so you get on with the day and then it sort of unfolds from there. So I'm looking forward to finding out more about it, because the English version of the book, the only one I know, the version that I signed off on, that is the book that is out there today. That's the book that has no names in it.
This is ridiculous. I mean, well, firstly, let's start with the main one. Wondering about the tone of an unborn baby's skin is akin to wondering what colour their hair or eyes might be. And it's all the more exciting when the couple are mixed. Now, my son, he's mixed, and I had a good old laugh because he's called Ivory, a name we decided on before he was born, and I can remember laughing with my friends and family saying, what if he comes out really dark? Ivory is a white colour. When Harry was gently confronted by his good old friend Tom Bradbury about the supposed racist, Harry claimed it was not racism but unconscious bias, and that the word racism was not actually used.
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
No, we didn't.
Well, of...
The British press said that.
Right.
Did Meghan ever mention that they were racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
There was
skin
concern
colour.
about his skin colour.
Right. Wouldn't you describe that as essentially racist?
I wouldn't, not having lived within that family.
Right.
So
You
again,
don't
going back to the difference between what my understanding is, because of my own experience, the difference between racism and unconscious bias, the two things are different.
Yet they picked up an award for standing up to racism in the royal family. I'm confused. I also failed to see how if someone truly were concerned about the skin colour of your baby and vocalised it to you in a negative manner, how that can be unconscious. It doesn't even make any sense. I'm afraid nothing adds up with these two. Why didn't Harry and Meghan clear up this misunderstanding if, by their own admission, the royal family aren't racist, instead of allowing them to be dragged through the mud by the global press? I suspect Harry doesn't really understand racism. After all, he dressed up as a Nazi in his youth to go to a party, and even then he blamed his dressing up in that manner on William and Catherine. Come on, Harry. Meghan, you blamed your family for staying silent. Are you going to condemn Endgame? Well, speak up.